Adesanya. You guys following this? Adesanya versus Pereira. So DraftKings opened the odds on this. Now, DraftKings generally open the odds. No big surprise. But Adesanya was a 2-1 favorite. That surprised me only in that I knew when DraftKings set that line that they didn't know that the audience knew that this would be the third time that these guys were fighting. I thought that was going to move pretty quickly. When we started to get some insiders that understood stand-up fighting, guys from the kickboxing community, guys that really understood it, they favored Pereira, and they were not hedging. They weren't even close. Pereira. But you had almost everybody, this is from my experience, my wave in MMA favoring Adesanya. Okay, great. Is this a situation of one side's perception being different and/or what's going to prove it to be better than the other side's? Not so fast. Not for me. That's not what I surmise. I believe that the MMA community as a whole that I'm speaking about was not aware of those two fights. That's what I believe. And I asked several of the people that I was in discussions with, and that's exactly what it was. And many of them had known that they fought one time, and Pereira knocked him out, but I heard Izzy was winning before that happened. It was something like this, right? Most people didn't really know the history. They didn't know how many rounds that they had completed. They didn't know the years that these took place. They didn't know these guys' backstory. They didn't know that Pereira had left to come over. They just didn't know much about it. So I don't surmise from an X's and O's standpoint, regardless of how this goes, that it's going to prove that the MMA community has a better understanding of combat than the kickboxing community, or vice versa. I think they didn't know the story. And this is what I believed. And now I'm trying to figure out when I'm at my computer, is this a good time to get Adesanya over at DraftKings? Or do I surmise that as this starts to come out, this is going to close and there's a better buy? So Adesanya is currently, to put these numbers in perspective for you, plus 170 DraftKings right now. Pereira, negative 145. It started at 2-1. It's now plus 170. I realize, right, if you're making a substantial bet, I realize the timing of when you place that is very different. Man, that's close. You know what? That's close. It closed $30 when the story and the information came out. When it did get revealed to the masses, who are the ones that are walking up to the window and placing the bet, that reset and adjust the line, when the whole story got revealed, it didn't change things. Why? Because that's also an interesting concept. If you get a real insider that understands it, you're going to get a very different answer when you're going to start hearing about the gloves. And you're going to start hearing about who judged it and how they came to that opinion and what the training camp was for Izzy prior to those fights. You're going to start really hearing about the story. But that doesn't represent a big part of the bettor, or even you, the audience. 15% are hardcore guys like us. The other 85% is what we call the little old lady in Iowa. Now that's a marketing expression, but what that means, you have a little old lady in Iowa. Very unlikely to know a whole bunch about fighting, but she comes across a commercial. How do you get her to stop? How do you get her to stop and stay there? So it's an expression, this little old lady in Iowa. It's an expression that you'll hear. 85% is the little old lady in Iowa. And what they are saying, what they are maintaining, and what that line at DraftKings is absolutely representing, the closing 2 months, training camps, story, and big things have come out. The size of Pereira, just by example. Knowing that he's cutting 50 pounds. I mean, there's some big information that's come out. And I think the MMA community, whether they're right or not, made it very clear these are two different sports, and we don't care. We do not care what happened in kickboxing. A professional kickboxing fight in the MMA community might as well have been an amateur event, right? I mean, we get amateurs that come over. Bo Nick will be a fine example. We don't care if he lost a match somewhere. That was different. That was all preparation to get him here. And even if it was a world kickboxing match, that is so small in comparison to the exposure that you get in MMA. They don't care. That was preparation for Adesanya. That outcome had nothing to do with it. Now let's hear a little bit from Izzy. Izzy made a statement. And see, what drives and motivates Adesanya is the key to Adesanya. And I know when you watch him, you want to have his skills. I know when you watch him, you want to be able to pull back and throw. You want to be able to block and kick and spin. I understand that, but those things don't just happen because he's programmed his body. Right? You get that guy that knows a whole bunch about sport. He got 10,000 reps, 10,000 hours. Like, you get these things. You can have these nuclear things within your body and your fibers, and they're going to react, and it's muscle memory. Like, you'll hear these things. Those things get driven, right? I mean, it's just like the car, and you want to tell me about the engine. If I don't put fuel in the sumbitch, it doesn't run. And the thing that makes Izzy and all those wonderful techniques, all of that, the thing that makes Izzy tick is something inside that each opponent has evoked, and it's personal. Every single one of those guys that got Adesanya in set shape, he's never faded. Adesanya has never faded in a fight, no matter how hard it gets. That means he's in shape. To be in shape, you got to be training. It's not just that you've got these muscle receptors. How do you motivate and train a guy who's already rich and is already the champion? Well, something personal. And Adesanya finds it. Adesanya made a comment today. He said, beating Pereira is more important than defending the belt. Simple statement. If you take it, you would read it and you would move on to the next statement. But let's not. Let's stay right there. That's poetry. That's poetry, so let's dig into that. Let's look a little bit closer. It is more personal. That's a personal statement that he beats Pereira. That means if it was in a back room and nobody saw it, right? Gordon Ryan style, you and me, in the gym. That he would rather do that than all the bells and lights that come with this, and he's telling the truth. We know him well enough to know he just told us the truth right there. That wasn't hype. That wasn't marketing. He needs to beat Pereira. He lost to him twice. He's always wondered about the guy. He wakes up in the morning, he sees gold belt sitting on his mantle, says he's the best in the world. He goes and grabs our media, and he looks, and there's his picture, says that nobody can beat him. But inside, he wonders, is that true? And the greats want an answer to that. Whether it's adverse or not, they will give the belt back. They will have the shame. They will live in the misery. If that was the true reality, that's what the greats would do. The greats want to know. Don't elevate me if I don't deserve it. Don't nominate me and don't speak of me in a certain way if I don't deserve it. Give it to the guy that does. I will take everything from that guy if I'm given the opportunity. I do not care if his family goes hungry. I don't care what it means. I will take it all. But if he can take it from me and he deserves it, I'll show up. It's a very interesting concept. It's a very interesting mindset. But you don't see guys like Adesanya come around very often. And when they do, sometimes it gets missed and they're not celebrated. You get these champions, all of a sudden they don't want to fight very often. They don't want to do any media. They don't want to come to events. They need more money. They got to talk. They got to negotiate. They're going to take their ball. I mean, all of these things happen, but not even close with him. Not even a maybe. Dan Hooker's the same way. Volkanovski's the same way. I mean, this whole damn gym, they've got one mentor, which is Eugene Berriman, but I don't see people praising and raising him up as much as they should. There's some kind of a mindset out there that isn't about what you can do for me and what can I get out of this whole thing. It's about I want to compete, I want to find out, I want to do it as often as I can. It's very interesting. You really don't see very many like this. And Adesanya is letting us know. I mean, to walk out here on short notice against a guy that's only had 5 fights, you're one of the biggest stars in the whole sport. He could have sidestepped this fight so easy. He could have bought himself some time. He could have got himself 2 or 3 more fights, which in his world's a lot of money. Or he can risk it all against this guy right now, who keeps him up at night and who bothers him and who makes him wonder if that mantle on the belt, that belt on the mantle that says he's the best, is true. You guys have made it clear. You really have. Opening at DraftKings at a 2-1, having the whole story told in this fight. I mean, this is days away, guys. They're going to be in the ring, snapping the fingers. And it moved to plus 170. You believe in Adesanya. Kickboxers believe in Pereira. I view it, and I will fully admit to you, I've never seen it before. I don't know what to expect. 2 great strikers that don't possess a takedown, that we're aware of, are going to go out and strike. Something they've already done, not once before, but twice before. Same outcome. The rules are a little different. The time's a little different. The gloves are different. Amount of people there, pressure on you, the stakes, they're sure a lot higher. enough to sway the outcome, according to you, yeah,